Ho ho buddies, welcome to Borderline Games. I am Gareth and today we're playing Chaos Head and we are playing the A Bloody Contract for Your Sins route. And we're with Ayase on top of a hospital and she's saying that a calamity is about to befall this world. So let us see... let's hear her out. Let's hear her out. Because, you know, I know a lot of people have got a lot to say about Ayase, but I say let's just see if those... You know, there could be a very good reason why she was covered in blood in the last episode. There could be a very good reason why she'd collected all the swords of the Giggly Maniacs, and it probably isn't anything to do with the fact that she murdered them. Let's give her a chance. A calamity is about to befall this world. You are about to experience a world the likes of which you've never seen before. But you mustn't lose heart. If you do, overthrowing Gladiol will be impossible. Ayase's voice lacked its usual composure. It was almost like she was scared. Would it really be that bad? Whatever was about to happen. Or should I say the delusion that she was about to turn into reality? I'm not ready yet. Then hurry up and ready yourself. We are out of time. Ready myself? Colonel, that's easier said than done. I don't even know what you think is supposed to happen, so what am I supposed to do? The worlds shall soon fuse. Their consolidated. Consolidation, that sounds so weird. I think that's right? Consolidation has begun. Yase mumbled that to herself, looking up at the sky. I decided to look up at it too. So I did. Oh, in the sky I could see a single spot dyed a vivid white. A white so bright it stuck out like a sore thumb in the night sky. What even was that? I gulped. Come to think of it, hadn't some people reported that the sky had turned white right before the last earthquake? The white spot was gradually expanding. It had an inexplicable sense of restlessness to it. It left me completely speechless. Gladiol has awakened! The earth trembled. The building shook. No, it wasn't just the building shaking. Everything was. The white spot in the sky grew even bigger. Then we were immediately assaulted by a violent buzzing noise, one that sounded similar to the resounding of the D-sword, the resonance of the D-sword from before. My head felt like it was about to explode. And then... it all went white. The world was dyed completely white. Was I dreaming? Even though it had been white only a moment ago, the sky was dyed red. The world itself had turned to a rusty vermilion. This couldn't be real. It had to be just another delusion. Or at least that was what I tried to tell myself. All across the sky I could see clouds upon clouds of black miasma. They seemed almost humanoid in shape. They had to be illusions, though. Even if they were unusually vivid, the clouds of haze spontaneously flickered in and out of sight. Even when I thought one had disappeared, it would pop up somewhere else a moment later. The blots of black miasma were innumerable. Just looking at them made me feel uncomfortable. And there was this intense, rotten-smelling stench. It was so bad, it nearly brought me to vomit. I didn't want to be here for even a second longer. That feeling was as strong as could be. When I came to, the sky had brightened up a little, and Shibuya had transformed into a city of death. AH Hospital was still standing, but cracks ran up the walls and the interior was in complete disarray. I only barely managed to make it out. The entrance to the outpatient clinic was swarmed with ambulances. The place was overflowing with people trampling over each other, fighting for medical attention. When I'd woken up, Ayase had smiled at me and said, "Let us return to Shibuya." It had been just before 6 AM at that point, which meant that I'd been out for over 10 hours. Yua's body was nowhere to be found. I asked Ayase if she knew what happened to it, but she didn't seem to know. Shibuya was hardly a 5-minute train ride from Yoyogi, but due to the earthquake, all public transport was on halt. The railroad had been torn to shreds, meaning there was no way it was going to be restored within the day. So we were forced to walk, something that was way harder than it sounds. The road was full of holes, and rubble from fallen buildings was constantly in our way. It was difficult to even walk in a straight line. As a result, the trip back to Shibuya Station ended up being a 3-hour struggle. The surrounding area had been completely annihilated. Almost all of the buildings had collapsed. Countless bodies were strewn about all around us. It was so pitiful. I couldn't stand to look at them. There were also a number of people still alive. Some were like us, just wandering along in complete shock, while others were crouched by the rubble waiting for help to arrive. And of course there were many people clinging on to dead bodies as they bawled their eyes out. Even though they'd survived, they all still seemed dead, like the trauma had drained them of every ounce of life they'd once had. The terrible odour of blood and dust filled the air, making even the act of breathing completely unbearable. Was this Gladiel's doing? Was Gladiel the name of the earthquake, maybe? I suppose that would make sense. They always gave the hurricanes names in America, like Andrew or Katrina. Was this how Ayase wanted things to end? Was this the ending she wished to reach? Then again, if you wanted to bring about the apocalypse, this would probably be the best way to do it. But there was no way a single person could cause a catastrophe on this scale, even with the powers of Gigliomaniacs, or a Black Knight as Ayase liked to call them. She'd said that the worlds shall fuse and all shall be consolidated, or whatever. But what exactly had she meant by that? While following behind Ayase through the city, I took a peek at the side of her face. Unsurprisingly, even Ayase had turned pale when faced with the current state of Shibuya. She walked in silence, clenching her jaw as if trying to endure an intense pain. "Listen up, everyone. This place is dangerous. We all have to hurry to the evacuation site." A middle-aged man in a suit was screaming into the crowd. He was calling out to all the survivors in the area, us included. "If you stay here, waiting for help, night will hit before you know it. But if you go now, you can make it to the evacuation site before then. Please don't stay here any longer. Even if it hurts to stand, you've got to get up, and you've got to get out of here. We've already escaped death once now, and we owe it to the dead to keep on living." Where the hell had that old guy gotten so much energy from? A few people listened and started moving toward him, but most people stayed put. Ayase didn't even look at him. She just kept on moving toward her destination, and I had no choice but to follow. Suddenly, I felt a throbbing pain in my forehead. Ever since we'd left Yoyogi, I've been getting headaches just like this. "Please, stand up. Why aren't you listening? It's dangerous. You get crushed by the rubble. I just want you all to survive." My head hurt. Oh. What the? Suddenly the world was dyed red once more. The sky was covered by vermilion clouds. It was the exact same thing I'd seen in my dream. The asphalt of the road, the concrete of the debris. The buildings, the shattered glass on the ground, the abandoned broken down cars, the uprooted trees from the sidewalk, all of it had been corroded, overtaken by rust. Who is that? Is this going to be Ayase? Maniacal laughter echoed throughout the area. It was coming from the same person who'd been trying to get everyone to take refuge just a second ago. Whoa. His body was covered in a cloud of black miasma. But it wasn't just him. Excluding the dead bodies, there were clouds of miasma around everyone I could see. The hazes were nearly human size. They swung back and forth rhythmically, each one unusually vivid. It was a horrifying sight. It was exactly like in my dream. That man's laughter was starting to annoy me now. Looking back toward him, I noticed that for some odd reason, he had an assault rifle pointed straight at me. The police are gone, so I can kill as many people as I want. He started spraying bullets. That can't be good. I immediately hit the ground. I'd been shot. Or so I thought. I had undoubtedly been standing right in his line of fire. But I didn't feel any pain. I lifted up my head to double check. Please, just go to the evacuation site. They have water, food, and blankets too. There's no reason to stay here. He wasn't holding a gun anymore. He was just pleading with the crowd around him. So please, keep on fighting to survive. Don't die in vain. But it all changed so suddenly. Oh, here we go again. So have we got like parallel worlds, kinda? Right, I guess that is what it is. For a split second, the man's body was covered in static. For the static, he'd had his hand raised up in the air, but after it, that hand was holding a gun. Doing that so quickly was humanly impossible. It was barely even coherent. It couldn't possibly be real. It was almost like watching a movie with several jarring jump cuts. And then he started firing again. The people that were shot fell to the ground, blood spurting everywhere. Their screams echoed through the air. And yet somehow none of the bullets were hitting me. It really felt like I was in a movie. It wasn't real life. Takumi! When I heard my name, I came back to my senses. Ayase was staring at me. She looked like she was about to say something. But in the end, she didn't. She simply turned her back and kept on walking. I took a look at the sky. It was cloudy, but not red. The surrounding scenery was overcast by a dark grey, no vermilion in sight. The shooter had gone back to pleading with everyone to evacuate. All the people who'd been shot were now unharmed, and none of them were engulfed by black miasmata. What the hell had just happened? Another one of my delusions? If it actually had been, then I must have really lost my touch. That delusion hadn't even been slightly realistic. It had been like a movie or a video game or something. Takumi, hurry! Ayase urged me forward. Where the hell was she going anyway? Was she headed for the evacuation site? The one that guy was yelling about? But if that was true, then she wasn't going the right way. Instead, she went right into the Inokashira line station. What the hell was she thinking? Are we going back to where Noah is? I think we are, aren't we? There were no staff members at the station and the trains were all stopped in place. Ayase made her way down to the tracks and started walking along them. Naturally, the tunnel was pitch black. It wasn't designed to be traversed on foot, after all. It hadn't collapsed yet, but it felt like it was only a matter of time before it did. I would have never imagined that I'd been ended up walking on railroad... I'll say that again. I would have never imagined that I'd have ended up walking on railroad tracks like this. What an adventure, though. They should make a movie about it. Wait, pretty sure there already is one. Granted, it had come out before I was born, so obviously I hadn't seen it. I'd never seen anything before I was born. I just knew it was about some people walking down railroad tracks to find a body. Meanwhile, walking through this underground tunnel wasn't nearly as exciting. If we continued along this route, we'd eventually pass by the Shinsen, Kamaba, Tadaime, Ikano, the Shimikatazawa stations. Getting in and out of Shibuya had been incredibly difficult, so using the subway tunnels was actually a pretty good escape plan. Well, we had started in Yoyogi, and now we were heading towards Shibuya, so something told me that Ayase wasn't using this as an escape route. Where are we going? Shinsen Station. What the hell was the point of going there? Maybe she was planning to head to Sumai from there, or maybe my base? Actually, I never told her where my base was, so probably not the second one. Speaking of which, I wondered if Sarah-tan had survived. What if the Kurenai conference hall had collapsed because of the earthquake? Oh god. All my poor waifus would be buried in rubble. Suddenly my trivial concerns were interrupted by a bright light. Here we are. We're gonna bump into Suwa here. There was a railroad crossing right before the Shinsen station, where light from the sky peeked in from above. After the crossing, the rails went into another dark tunnel, and after that was the Shinsen station platform. The lights at the platform were out, likely due to the earthquake. It was pretty damn dark. There was almost no one around. All I could see were two girls sitting on the platform. Judging by their uniforms, they were Sumai students. Ayase approached them without a hint of hesitation. Maybe she knew them or something. As we got closer, the figures in the darkness became clearer. My brow furrowed. I felt like I'd seen them somewhere before. And then I realised exactly who they were. Senna. Kozupii. But something was wrong with them. They should have been able to hear us coming, but they didn't even turn to look at us. No, they just sat there. Their heads looking down at the ground, not moving. Senna? Kozupii. I tried calling out to them, but the two still didn't respond. What the hell was up with them? The hearts of the Black Knight are soon to perish. So we must retrieve them. The D-swords. Uh-oh. I guess he's gonna kill him. Wait. No fucking way. I rushed over to the girls in a panic, then peered into Senna's eyes. Ah! Are they dead? Senna's eyes were devoid of life. They were completely hollow, with no light left within them. They stared into nothingness. Those sharp eyes of hers, always glaring at everyone and everything. Not a single trace of them remained. She was trying to murmur something. Oh, she's not dead. But her voice was so incredibly faint, all that came out were a mere croak. I couldn't make out a single word she'd said. Kozupii was the same. The light behind her eyes had died out. Her mouth hung open, drool trickling down her cheek. She tried to speak, but her voice was too hoarse to understand. Something had happened to them. What the hell was going on in this city? I was absolutely clueless, so I turned to Ayase for answers, but she didn't seem remotely interested in their fates. The D-swords were lying nearby. Ayase took her own sword and brought it near them. The same shrill sound from before reverberated throughout the station. The three D-swords began to warp and transform. Then came the shockwave, assaulting my body like a fierce gust of wind. And once it passed, Ayase was holding Senna's and Kozupi's D-swords. That makes 6. Blushing in apparent arousal, Ayase looked at me. Takumi, the only one left is yours. You must obtain it. How the hell could she be so calm right now? My frustration was then met by the same throbbing pain in my head as before. Here we go. The world turned red once again. Everything began rusting, rotting and eroding away. I could smell a strong odour coming from Kozupii. Kozupii slowly rose up from the ground. Her entire body was dyed red. Was that blood? Or rust? Oh, there she is. Kozupii's gonna kill you.
Kozupii's gonna kill you!
Kozupii raised her head. Her face was covered by a black miasma. The sheer bloodthirst coming from her was terrifying. Kozupii stretched out her thin arms as if trying to strangle me, strangle me. But when I blinked, she had somehow ended up back on the ground, her head hanging downward. She had an indescribable expression on her face.
Kozupii's gonna kill you!
Static rang in my ears, and Kozupii instantly teleported beside me. The black miasma grazed my shoulder. A ghastly cold sent a chill down my spine.
Kozupii's gonna kill everyone! You're next. Takumi-shan. Kozupii's mirror will shred you to pieces!
Oh, hang on. Is this Yase talking? I think it might be. Her whispers were emotionless and robotic, but that only made them all the more horrifying. I blinked once more. Oh, when she's gone. Senna's body was slumped over on the ground. She'd been cut to pieces. Kozupii violently swung down her arms and stabbed Senna in the head with a shard of glass. Dark blood stained Senna's long, beautiful black hair. Kozupii then raised the piece of glass in the air and stabbed her once more. Oh my god. Static. Now Kozupii was on the ground instead of Senna, and Senna had mounted a homeless man that had appeared out of nowhere. Her head was buried in his shoulder. That's her father. Her head was moving up and down constantly. What was she doing? Her hair was covering her face, so I couldn't really tell. That is, until she finally looked up. The man's shoulder was stained in blood. His flesh was minced like ground beef, and I could make out a little bit of pink muscle glistening from within. Wait. No, was it blood? Muscle? Rust?
Ah, you taste so good.
Senna finally turned around and I could see the blood surrounding her mouth. She was chewing on something. Devouring it. Gross. My legs trembled, and the second I lost my balance and collapsed to the ground, the world returned to its original colour. My headache vanished too. I pressed my hand against my forehead and shook my head intensely. I felt extremely sick, like I was about to vomit. It didn't really feel like a panic attack or shock or anything like that. It was more like a poison was slowly trickling through my veins, spreading through my entire body. One that hit me with a horrible sinking feeling that weighed heavily on my mind. I raised my head and looked at Senna and Kozupii. They were still where they had been originally, on the ground, motionless.
What happened?
Ayase held out her hand. It was the same look from earlier, one that told me that she had something more to say. I took her hand and stood up from the ground. We left Senna and Kozupii as they were. I wanted to help them, but I really didn't have the strength to do so, and Ayase just didn't care in the slightest. We made our way back towards Shibuya Station. On the way we saw countless wounded people on the ground, and just as many dead bodies lying around. Ayase looked up at the sky, with her usual distant expression. Trying to stave off my nausea, I asked her a question. What sort of ending are you aiming for here, Ayase?
Ending?
Rimi was missing in action. Senna and Kozupii had both had their minds broken. Ayase had already taken the D-swords from all the Giglomaniac girls, or maybe stolen would be more appropriate. She had to have orchestrated all of it. How could she have not? There was no way she'd just happened to find a bunch of out-for-the-count mind-broken Giglomaniacs that had all had their D-swords out. There was just no way. If she was behind it all, then the earthquake was also her doing, and Gladiel was just a legend she'd made up. Can you say for sure that this earthquake isn't your delusion? You wanted this to happen, didn't you?
I wonder.
Why would you wish for this?
Do not rush to conclusions, Takumi. All of this was foretold by Ziegler. I only happened to know of it. That is all there is to it.
Yeah, in your notebook, in your book, there's just a blank notebook. But that Gladiol book has to be a delusion. That book doesn't exist anywhere.
But you saw it, Takumi. In my hospital room.
Yeah, I saw it, but it was completely blank.
You were merely unable to read it, Takumi.
There's no way it's that simple. You have to be lying. You can't fool me.
There are 6.7 billion worlds. As many as there are people. What can be seen in each one differs from world to world. No two can ever be identical. So neither can yours and mine.
If that's true, then link me your sources. But you can't, can you? Ayase stared at me, then furrowed her brow. She seemed a little perplexed. It was almost like she was forcing herself not to show any emotion.
Do you wish to see it? The world that I see?
If that's possible, then yeah. Though I doubt I'd believe what you'd show me anyway.
You misunderstand, Takumi. You can already see my world. Little by little, you're beginning to synchronize with it.
Oh, so in her world, she actually is fighting a bunch of zombies? Because, what's her name? Senna was being a zombie, just biting her dad's shoulder. And Kozupii was being weird. What, Boom. There it is. The world rusted over once more. Those collapsed on the ground were engulfed by black miasmata. I could see the head of a child crushed by the debris poking out through the cracks, and a man who was probably their dad trying to save them. Good God. Static rang in my ears again. And then, in an action that was incomprehensible to me, the dad stomped on the child's head. Their head split open like a watermelon, was subsequently crushed by their father's foot. Blood and grey matter splashed onto the ground. Fucking hell. The static came again. The child's head was now completely intact. I could hear their dad cry out to them. Hold on! I'll get you out of there! Static. The child had escaped from beneath the rubble, and now they were stabbing their father over and over again with a knife.
You're fucking useless, you old fuck!
They jeered. A young couple was sitting in a somewhat remote spot. The two were under the same blanket, huddled right next to each other. When the static came again, it engulfed the two of them, and the man began to rape her. Oh my god. Her screams echoed loudly throughout the city. Okay, awesome. The screams stopped with more sounds of static, and the two were back together as if nothing had happened. Two middle-aged women were limping around the road. They were likely sisters. Static flashed, and one of them grabbed the other by the hair in an instant. She then began to yank on it in an attempt to uproot it completely, and with the fierce sound of tearing, she almost succeeded. The static soon flashed again, and her hair was back to normal. That one was a very tame one compared to the last one. What the hell is this?
It is my world.
It was her world. It wasn't my delusion, but Ayase's. Wait, was it even a delusion or was it reality? A black miasma was hovering over Yase's chest too, but really I didn't want to see any of them anymore, so I instinctively looked away.
What colour is the sky you normally see, Takumi?
What do you mean, what colour? It's blue.
Is that blue?
Ayase pointed up to the sky. It was a shade of red. That's vermilion.
Vermilion. So that colour is not blue.
Ask anyone and they tell you that it's not. Anyone with common sense, that is.
But to me that colour is blue.
What? What was she saying?
Takumi, can you explain to me what sort of colour is blue?
I don't know, it's the colour of the sky.
But that is only the colour I've ever seen in the sky.
But everyone knows what kind of colour blue is.
I do not. Please explain it to me. Without an example this time, what sort of colour is blue?
Without an example? How was I supposed to? I tried thinking of a way to explain it, but I came up empty-handed. I just couldn't come up with a way to describe the colour blue. Upon noticing my complete loss for words, Ayase gave me a sad smile.
I told you, there are 6.7 billion worlds. Meaning there are 6.7 billion ways of seeing what colour the sky is. You cannot assume that everyone sees things the same way you do.
The scenery went back to normal. This colour was my world's. Ayase, do you always see the world like that? Ayase gave a slight nod.
Ever since the day I was born, I thought that was just how things were, how the world was structured. But I suppose I was wrong. Something I only learned when you told me, Takumi.
What's that black miasma?
A wicked heart. Everyone has one. As long as they're human, Gladiel feeds upon those wicked hearts in order to manifest. Did you see them? The negative delusions of man.
Wait, was the static causing negative delusions to bubble to the surface? Was that why I'd been seeing all that inhuman savagery?
I have always seen them. I am sure all Black Knights can, to varying degrees. They are home to nothing but true malice, pure unadulterated desire.
Had Ayase been seeing a world like that ever since she was born? She just said that she had.
Takumi, the ending I wish for is one when we break our souls free from this corroded world. And to do that, we must overthrow Gladiel.
Ayase moved closer to me.
So please find it. You are our only hope, Takumi. Please find your D-sword.
I can't. Unable to bear it any longer, I pushed Ayase away by her shoulders. Ayase's eyes opened wide in shock.
Why? Are you giving up?
I'm not this amazing person you think I am, Ayase. No matter how much I want it, how much I wish for it, it doesn't feel like I'm even close to getting a D-sword at all. It was the same back at Ophrunt, and it stayed the same, even after the earthquake. I can't figure out how to do it, so I know that I can't, and won't get a D-sword. I never will. I've no faith in myself.
Then why did you save me?
Ayase drew even closer. I took a step back, trying to stay away from her. What do you mean, saved you?
When I leapt from the school rooftop, you gave birth to a world where there was a flower bed. And that is why I could not ascend my spirit to a higher stage.
That was a fluke. I hadn't done it intentionally.
But I am fine with that. Because of what you did, I learned of your power. From that moment on, you became my only hope.
Please don't place all your hope in someone on a whim. Please stop expecting anything from me.
Takumi, you mustn't degrade yourself so. That is merely the wicked-hearted king's invasion of your mental space. You cannot, and must not let him win. You are powerful, truly. Come what may, you will obtain your D-sword. I know you will.
And I guess we'll find out next time on Borderline Games if Takumi actually finds his D-sword, or whether he will fail yet again to find it. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chaos Head, and I will see you next time. Have a good evening. Bye bye! Bye 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 bye. See ya.